Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again. 'Tis the day after Christmas, and all through your house, well, there's some creatures stirring for sure. Talking about some Duval dive action, of course. You Jaguar fans out there, you Duval devout, let us be among the last to wish you a happy holiday. And depending on your holiday, maybe the first. I don't know, even Hanukkah's running late this year. Whatever. Anyways, none of that aside, let me spread some holiday cheer to you with help from my personal champion, my good friend, BigCatCountry's own Travis D. Holmes. What's going on, my friend?
Good morning, Merry Christmas, and almost New Year.
And almost New Year's, that's right. Of course, let us be among the first to wish you out there a happy New Year. See, that's the one I steal from Chris Berman when it doesn't work out. You know, let us be among the first or among the last. Like, you could be having a birthday in, August, and I could be like, Travis, let me be among the first to wish you a happy birthday. Like, see, now I got it covered.
No, that's dope. That's pretty good.
But yeah, I mean, let's get into it. The Jags home closer, so to speak, the penultimate game of the Jacksonville Jaguars season. The Duval devout and some populations are actually somewhat relieved that this is what's happening at this point. But of course, the Tennessee Titans on the schedule, the Calvin Ridley Revenge Part 2, if he had a first one. Mason Rudolph, your starting quarterback. I mean, listen, let's put it this way. I don't even think Santa would get that Rudolph to lead his sleigh. That's all I'm saying. So with all that being said, this Tennessee Titans game, they scored 16 points total last time. The lowest scoring game in the NFL this year, if I remember correctly. Do you think they can outdo that?
I mean, it's possible. I would even say likely. I would hope that they would surpass that game because it was a lot left on. There was a lot of meat left on that bone. Let's say it that way.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we obviously know. Yeah, we already know that. Titans quarterback Will Levis left 2 touchdowns on the board, both in the red zone with literally booty naked, wide open receivers, and he's throwing to the other one, and it just. So yeah, there are a few points left on the field, absolutely, and the Titans are now going back to Mason Rudolph, despite a 3-interception Colts loss last week. Oh boy, they are limited on options, but at least they did score 30 points in that loss. So I have to believe that they will do something on the field.
Well, and we'll add this too. And well, here's another factor that might be working against them. Are they going full tank? It's time to sit Jag stars and not risk injuries. At this point, Robert, are you saying BTJ doesn't play? I mean, he's not in the Pro Bowl yet, so I don't know if we can do that. But
we're talking like the Titans aren't going full tank. Like both teams are absolutely going full tank, and our tank is apparently worse than their tank. Like, I don't know, because I mean the Jaguars just lost against the Raiders, the previously 2-win Raiders just last week in absolute tank mode. So I don't know. That's a curious one. Whose tank is worse?
Well, I'll put it this way: if the Jags are tanking, they won't run Tank Bigsby. That's an interesting conversation to be had too. Guess we might see some more Darren Johnson if that's the strategy. I don't know, man. Like, I feel weird ways about that. Like, you're going to have to try pretty damn hard to lose to the Jacksonville Jaguars, but Travis Hunting is on display here. It's almost as if it's like an Animal Planet channel here. Watch as the Jaguars hunt for Travis. They're going to tank whatever they can. It's a whole thing. Yeah. May Steve Irwin rest in peace, by the way. But I guess that's what's left. I mean, let me ask you this, because you're connected to other areas of Duval devout social media that I am not. Like, are they mostly Travis hunters? Do they live in your camp of we should trade it back? What are you saying?
Well, I mean, I haven't heard a lot of folks arguing for the trade back. Like, I'm big on the trade back. Trade back is my number one option. If it's possible, if there's someone who's willing to tango, absolutely. I'll even take a small haircut to move back. If you can get another pick or two this year, next year, I'm here for it. That's my personal preference, and I know it's just mine. But a lot of the people that I'm talking to, I mean, they're big on Michigan defensive tackle. You got Mason Graham, you got Will Johnson. If you want to go corner instead of the Travis Hunter route, because someone else who might be in that top 5 to 7 range, something along those lines. Genty is not as accepted just because the Jaguars do have Travis Etienne and Tank Bigsby as running back options. So that's a weirder one, but it's one that I can absolutely see if the Jaguars want to go with the 3-down back instead of keeping with this whole neither back can actually pass block kind of thing, and we're kind of one of them catch the ball at all kind of situation that we kind of have going on in Jacksonville. So
right.
For the most part, we have a few different options there. Assuming the trade back option isn't there. So I've heard a little bit of folks being all over the place, but at the end of the day, we know we need bigs. And for me,
no, Graham is the one I'm hoping for. You're telling.
That's where I'm at.
Yeah, no tweeners. I'm with you on that. For me, listen, where I live with Graham is you're telling me a guy that's hardball coached as a large human might end up in this space? Yes, please. Well, and here's another topic we wanted to broach. You and I were talking about it as we were setting up for the show, and perhaps the Houston Texans gave us the gift on Christmas Day of not only getting obliterated by the Baltimore Ravens, but you bring up a point that I don't have a good answer to, and I want to kind of walk through it here. Why is it Trevor Lawrence gets crapped on? Like, it's on my feed, I can see back-to-back tweets of some shyster data person completely manipulating data. Oh, look, this random percentage that means precisely diddly jack is the same as Mac Jones and Derek Carr. That means they're better than Trevor Lawrence. And I know you could listen. You dunk on these dudes on a regular basis at Travis D. Holmes over on the socials in question. Meanwhile, CJ Stroud gets obliterated by the Baltimore Ravens, a team that the Jags have beaten in the 2 years ago, right? And all I hear is, oh, well, his own line is bad. Oh, all these receivers are hurt. But as if the entire core for Jacksonville was healthy when Trevor was knocked out. What is the difference? What is going on there? What am I missing?
People just want to be right. That's what you're missing. That's what it comes down to. So Trevor Lawrence was a number 1 draft pick, a number 1 pick who was labeled as generational.
Yeah, it's that tag again, isn't
it? That tag. So if you have a guy who came in and was supposed to be generational, there is no being right on him. There is like in existence. Like if you were someone who was saying, hey, he's the best quarterback prospect ever, it makes sense to pile on if he's struggling. And it also, if you're someone who's saying, well, he's not, I'm ready. I'm waiting for you to be unsuccessful, because then I can just say, hey, look at me. I'm the smartest person out here. And there is no win there. And that's the part that I'm like stuck on, because a lot of these fantasy football dorks, and I call them fantasy football dorks because they're not watching film. Because if you're watching film, there's half of these things, that the comparisons they're trying to make aren't even remotely relevant. And that's why I responded to the one you're referencing. I'm not even going to give them credit and say their name out there. And if you can see a little trend, they kept responding to other people, but they definitely didn't respond to anything that I said. Like, hey,
they dodged you hardcore, kid.
Yeah. Why are you not bringing out ADOT? Why are you not bringing up average depth of target when you're talking about completion percentage? If you're a fantasy football site, shouldn't you want to provide context? Isn't that what this is supposed to be for? Education? No comment. And I'm because obviously all the things that I'm bringing up are things that it's going to say, hey, they're obviously not the same, because one of them is throwing 30% screens. This ain't a comparison, bro. You just sound like a joke.
Yeah, I would even say, oh, look, we're talking about ADOT. I feel so fancy. I would imagine that number at the beginning of the year for the Jags versus later in the year for the Jags with just Trevor is different because of all the wide receiver injuries. So there's just so many things to factor in with that.
At one point in the last Tennessee Titans game, funny thing, Mac Jones had an ADOT that was like it was less than 5 yards, basically. And I'm actively tracking this for our advanced stats in the BigCatCountry post-game recap. So I'm actively looking at it. And at one point, he's in the bottom 10th percentile of all quarterbacks since 2020, since 2010. And I'm like, I'm ready for the game to end before they get to the last 2-minute drive and all of this. Because I'm like, if this ends right now, this is a historic level of inability to pass the ball downfield. Like, and he ended up getting like a long pass later in the game to kind of just rack up the numbers. But it was
he found BTJ White stinking open. Yeah. We all saw it.
I was just like, so I was looking for it. I was ready for it. And I'm like, dude, how are people looking at this game or looking at this tape and coming to these conclusions? Oh, that's right. They're not looking at the game. They just box score watching. And that's the problem.
I mean, Robert brings up the point networks still suck and they want Trevor off for their teams. Well, hey, listen, we're not blaming Emmanuel Acho for this one. He can't really talk about Trevor when he's hurt. It doesn't help his show very much at all.
It's just they know the Jaguar fans are real sensitive about their quarterback, and if they want to get some action in a dead time frame, there's nothing else to talk about. Bring up Trevor Lawrence and compare him to fill in the blank bad quarterback. Doesn't matter what quarterback. If you can find a link, they know Jaguar fans are going to pull those pitchforks out and they're ready to fight.
Well, and they have to be. When you think about it, like, because here's the thing, and I'm not here to say that Trevor Lawrence is the best quarterback in the league. I'm not. Depending on what his stock is, I've seen him be all over the range, anywhere from top 20 to top 5, depending on who and what part of the chronological year it is. And going into this season, I'm fairly certain the number he's going to get ranked by air quotes experts is going to be middle of the road, top 15, you would think, right? I'll be curious to see what they do with the, for lack of a better word, lack of data in 2024. And what will they revert to? Will they revert to him as the Prince is promised, or as someone said you're generational and you're not, so you must be bad? It
depends on the coach. It depends on the coach and the OC, or mainly if you believe that the Jaguars are going to bring in an offensive-minded coach, then it depends on the coach they bring in. Otherwise, it depends on the OC that they bring in. Because we've seen this so many times across the NFL, man. If you bring in someone who is a great offensive or a great above average offensive coordinator, that first year, you're going to look good. It happens every time. You're going to look good in year one. The question isn't about year one, it's about year two. So this offseason, people are going to be down on Trevor Lawrence. Get that through your heads. Just come to terms with it. It is what it is. Like, people are going to be down on Trevor Lawrence. And by like week 3 to 5 or something like that, they're going to be super duper. Everybody's going to be like, yep, he's back. And you don't know what it's going to be until that first offseason going into the year 2 under that new OC, that new play caller, that new offensive system. Or otherwise, you get that whole CJ Stroud effect with Bobby Slovic, because everyone loved him last season. And all of a sudden, it's like, oh, Bobby must be terrible, and the O-line must be terrible, and the receivers must. I'm like, no. You can't give C.J. Stroud all these excuses like Trevor Lawrence don't exist. I'm sorry. I don't know what you want to like. You want to put race on it? You want to put the fact that he's just a darling on it? Like, I don't know why no one's talking about how bad C.J. Stroud has been playing. And I'm talking about overthrows, underthrows, wide open receivers, even. Just looking at the Ravens game last night.
Yeah,
dude, my group chat, it was lit in my group chat, in my group chat on the social network I won't name. They were going crazy every overthrow. They were just like, what is this? What is this your king? Like, what is happening here? And nobody's talking about this dude. And I'm like, this dude's playing terribly. Receivers or no receivers. It's not like guys aren't open. He's just missing them. So it's just been interesting, bro.
Yeah, interesting. CJ looks worse than Trevor behind that O-line. Listen, we've cited the Texans O-line as a weakness. I've cited it on the Student of the Game podcast. Even on the Texans 22 when I guested on there back when they before the first matchup. Shouts to my guy VT. They were the ones setting their O-line aflame. At that point, they were among the worst penalized group in the league. They may still be. I haven't looked at the stat lately, but I find it interesting you mentioned the race thing too, because it's funny if you go back far enough, seeing a quarterback of color was impossible for reasons that were completely ignorant. Now, you get a quarterback of color, he's propped up, and Trevor Lawrence, because he's of a lighter hue, might be getting flack. I can't rule that out. Now, granted, I'm technically not allowed to talk about it, right? But he said jokingly. But no, I think there's some element to that out there. I don't think it's the dominant reason. I think I'm with you. I think the sheen of what CJ Stroud's doing is still upon him, or I should say did last year is still upon him. And he did all the circuits and did all the shows. He's a somewhat likable dude. He's edgy enough to be entertaining, but he says likable stuff, generally speaking. I think that's a factor. And then moreover, at the end of the day, the Texans can still boast, well, we're the division leaders. Granted, this division is a dumpster fire that got put out with dog water.
They are the worst division leader, Lord.
So, I mean, what are we talking about? It's kind of like, Clemson representing the ACC in the college football playoff. Anyways, so I said what I said, Travis D. Holmes.
Not bad. That was a nice little pull. I like it. But no, man. So CJ going through his tour around the world, I don't know, of all the different podcasts, made this so much. I mean, I gotta call it, made it sweeter, because again, even I was a fan of CJ Stroud. Even I was a fan of his head coach going into this season, because I was like, it sounds like they're doing it right. I mean, it seems like they got a good head on the shoulders, blah blah blah. And then this all season happened, and I'm like, I hope everything bad happens to you and only you. Like, it turned me into a hater, and I didn't even have a huge dog in that fight. Like, it was just like, dude, you talking too much. Like, shut your mouth, because these NFL guys are going to hear this, and they're going to try to punch you in the mouth every opportunity because you asking for it. I don't even dislike you, and I want everything bad to happen in life to you and only you. Like, it's just that.
I'm pretty sure I had heard through the grapevine, and you can confirm if this is true or not, that CJ Stroud personally sent you the Charlie Murphy startup kit, including the outfit from the Player Haters Ball. So then you had to be all hate. There's a reference.
Sent it to me. He sent it to he sent it to everybody in Duval County. He was like, yes, to all of you. I hate all of you. All right, cool. We hate you too.
Welcome. Hey, and people want to think there's not rivalry between the Texans and Jaguars. Listen,
they created
I'm not here to tell you that it's Ravens Steelers or anything that dramatic, but it's there. There's some there.
Yeah, it's getting there. You wait to see what happens next year when they play. I think it's getting there. And especially if you get the right coach. Now, that's going to be an interesting thing, though, because the Jaguars come up with one of them soft coaches. I'm sorry. I'm not going to name any specific names just to protect myself, but you know what I'm saying. If you bring in one of those boy geniuses and they don't have the right backbone or the right disposition, that's talking about punching somebody in the mouth, that's giving you those Dan Campbell vibes or those Aaron Glenn vibes. If you're not bringing in someone like that, you are already hustling backwards, because you are already leaning into the soft way that this team has been performing throughout this season. I want to see somebody who's going to tell you dudes, hey man, I know you ain't supposed to be fighting, but good job fighting. Like, good job fighting after your quarterback is unconscious. Like, whatever, man. Do what you got to do. I understand. We'll help you with that. Fine. Like, that's what I'm looking for. Someone who's going to back you and punching somebody in the mouth, because that's what the Jaguars need right now. That culture's got to shift.
I mean, I love these next two comments too. Like, both of them are CJ Stroud coming to earth comments. Robert in there. I love seeing CJ Stroud come to reality after hitting podcasts like he was the next Tom Brady.
Next Tom Brady. Now he's looking worse than the guy he was trying to give advice to. And Caleb Williams, giving him early advice. Keep your head up, man. Bro, you're looking like garbage out there now.
Keep your head up, Humpy Bumpy. No.
Are you okay?
And then here's Zenith RX. I like the fact that CJ came down to earth as proof that the division isn't the Texans for the next few years. That's an interesting point. We can bounce back. Yeah, I'll argue that there's a power vacuum in the AFC South, because everybody's dog water right now. Like, nobody is good in that division. So, and I think I know where you're going, Travis. You're one draft and one coaching hire, one GM replacement away from potentially taking this division back, and then the following year trying to put in something that can rally and take this division. This makes me think of a topic that we're not talking about on this show, because we're about to hit the offseason. But but I think that's an interesting point that the AFC South is in that power vacuum status, which you don't typically see for teams that have their franchise quarterback in tow. And granted, I'm not saying that's the Colts or the Titans right now, but how do you have a power vacuum with two teams that have a franchise quarterback?
I'm here for it. Prayers up. Prayers that the Tennessee Titans continue with Callahan as their head coach. Prayers that the Houston Texans stay with Bobby Slovic next year. Like prayers that they don't try to do something crazy and just change it up, because that's the only wild card that I can see in this equation that makes me cautious moving forward for this AFC South. Otherwise, I think this is absolutely the Jaguars division to grab still. With all of this being said and done, like you get the right head coach and you're good. Right head coach, build up those trenches, you're good to go. You got the quarterback. You got some of the highlight players.
I would also consider a team chaplain, somebody to exorcise the demons of the freaking injury juju up in that thing. Because let me tell you, it's been nutty the past 2 seasons, brother.
I mean, bro, we all old, man. Like, well, we old. Like, let's be real about this. Like, we're talking about the injuries, though, for the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I consider I'm old in NFL terms. I'm ancient in NFL terms. Like,
both of us.
39 years old. A lot of these guys are in that, let's say mid 30s, that 31 to 34 range. You got Gabe Davis is what? 30, 29?
I think he's third T, yeah.
13. All right, man. Yeah. I'm just saying that's an older NFL wide receiver. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not trying to say the man's ancient, but that's absolutely older. And when you get older, guess what happens? You feel old. You have these little lingering injuries that all of a sudden they become.
I gotta interrupt you. We are way off.
Is he
28? Gabe Davis is only 25, man.
Lord, what all these soft tissue injuries? I thought he was older, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, we're both UCF guys, and I'm thinking. I mean, obviously, I watched him playing in college, so I'm really off on the timeline.
Yeah, I didn't think he was that young, but yeah, 2018.
But it's all these soft tissue injuries, and I bet that's what 25. It is. It's these soft tissue injuries that made me feel like he's older because he keeps going through them.
Yeah, you had me fooled for a minute there too. I didn't think about the timeline. I covered Gabe Davis for the black and gold banneret.
Right. So we both remember. I'm just sitting there like, okay, yeah, Lord. I guess it's just the soft tissue injuries. But at the end of the day, if you are someone who religiously has soft tissue injuries, a la Cam Robinson, a la Walker Little, even. Then it makes you just feel older because you are now someone who is more injury prone. And I'm saying if I'm older, I step off a curb the wrong way. I'm in the walking boot for 3 weeks. Like, that's just how this goes, bro.
There's nothing funny about that. Like, listen, here's a comment here.
That's what I'm saying about the Jaguars. It's not the injury juju. It's just, hey, man, you got players that may be kind of like prone in this way. And I don't know how you're going to resolve that. Again, Tyson Campbell, another guy who's religiously been injured more than he's been healthy. Literally 1 healthy year so far, and we're 5 in. This is a problem. These are problems, but I don't know how you solve that with the staff necessarily. Guys has got to get healthy, and I hope it happens for us because we need some of these guys. But they all have this kind of little tag on them, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and here's an earlier comment here. Most of this I agree with, but there's one thing I want to bring up: a house should have been cleaned after last year, regardless of us messing up the Ridley situation, trading back, and still landing BTJ. Here's the thing. I don't think the Jaguars messed up the Calvin Ridley situation. I really don't.
Interesting.
I really don't. Okay.
Continue. Go ahead.
Because the reason why I don't think so, first of all, everybody has the benefit of hindsight in this evaluation. So let me lead with that. I'm not saying that Calvin Ridley was or lived up to expectation at all. But what did the Jags really lose for exploring it? A 5th round pick? A 4th round pick? I don't know. Something relatively, what's his word? Insignificant, right? When he asked for the bag and the Jags didn't give it to him, he has an opportunity to light up the sky with the Titans. The only thing Will Levis can do is throw the ball deep. And Calvin Ridley has not been prolific in the one place their quarterback is good. You would think, because teams, I don't know, you're the one that watches the All-22, Travis. I don't think teams are swinging coverage to Calvin Ridley, or at least haven't been all season.
The Tennessee Titans, they kind of are because they don't have any
nothing else is available. Left. Yeah, that's what I mean. When they were full swing, they weren't doing that. Like, obviously, since then, DeAndre Hopkins has left, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
But I think Calvin Ridley was acquired, had all sorts of drops, important ones, I might add, demonstrated himself as mentally soft with an agent that had big round brass ones that Trent Baalke, as he does, stared down in a game of kit chicken. The Tennessee Titans lost. So really, say what you will about whether the Jags got Ridley right, the Titans are now carrying that contract, and the Jags aren't.
So the Jaguars got the Calvin Ridley outcome right while getting the Calvin Ridley process wrong. And because some of us are process people and not outcome people, because that's how I am. Like I'm happy you got the answer right on the math test, but if you got the process wrong, you still getting half credit. yeah. If you ain't showing your I need you to show your work, bro. That's how this goes. So I tell my daughter, in middle schooler, hey man, I'm happy you got the answer right, but I need to make sure you ain't cheating. Like I need to see how you got to this outcome. All right, cool. This is how you got to the outcome. Then you got lucky. And luck eventually is going to show itself in bad roster management and bad roster building. You might hit on the individual actual player in BTJ. Good job, Trent. Great job. But I would consider that luck. I would not consider that a skill or great or quality process.
I got that part. So let me ask you this question then, because and granted, this is putting me in the awkward position of defending Trent Baalke. I'm not trying to do that. All right. But look at you sinister so-and-so.
Let's go.
I think they knew up front it was a risk. I think they they mitigated the risk by what they paid, air quotes, for him in draft picks.
Sure.
What's the thing they could have done better in the process that I'm missing?
Well, they could have just franchise tagged Josh Allen. Oh, sorry, not it was the goodness gracious. You had the option to actually have Ridley signed beforehand, one, and you would have lost the second round draft pick. Like I fully understand the issues there, or just going with the franchise tag and had Josh Allen signed. Fine, because he ended up getting signed anyways. Mm-hmm. So the only real issue there is just the fact that you didn't want to bite that bullet earlier in the process because maybe you didn't want to get off your number. Whatever. Like that's just a weirder part about it for me across the board. But if you get that done, you keep Ridley. Yes, you lose out on the opportunity of having BTJ. That would have happened, and we would have still probably been reasonably happy. Well, I say reasonably happy. The team would have still stunk. The team would have stunk. The team would have stunk, to be clear.
Then when BTJ is elsewhere and he's lighting it up, the Duval development be like, oh, we could have had that guy and we paid Calvin Ridley.
Well, the Duval development were not going crazy for BTJ before
Actually, that's a good point,
losing out on Calvin Ridley.
They wouldn't have known BTJ was even on the radar if we're technically accurate.
Bingo. That was a different situation. So that's why that's the thing. So if the Jaguars would have just invested in that O-line or that D-line early and or maybe even the cornerback room early, and maybe had just a slightly better defense, I think this might be a totally different conversation. I'm not we'd be hating Ryan Nielsen. I think he'd be getting the primary source of ire right now.
As if he's not now, but go ahead.
But he should be getting more smoke, but the reason he's not getting as much smoke as he probably deserves with the production of this defense is because they did not invest in the defense in the ways that they should have. So if this defense would have been playing equally bad with investments in the defense, he would have been getting more smoke. But we knew up front, hey man, they didn't do enough to give this defense like a real chance of being a top defense. Like give him a good cornerback, give him a top cornerback in the draft, give him a top free agent cornerback or better defensive line, or actually use a freaking interior defensive lineman as an interior defensive line.
Whoa.
Yeah, genius stuff. Yeah, that kind of stuff. So that's what I mean. Like it's we knew early on that this might be problematic, simply defensively at least. And so it's kind of hard to put it all on the coach, even though he's doing some funky, wonky things right now.
But now we're out here when I was asking about Ridley, and that's kind of my point. Did they luck into it? Nobody's ruling that out, Travis.
They took a risk they took a lower risk in my opinion, because it was the cost that Ridley was asking for was kind of asinine for what he was.
Yeah, and like Dina says in the comment, I don't mind him trying to get his bag, but I don't think the Jags should pay it.
You're right. So I'm not disagreeing with you that they knew it was a risk. The Jacksonville Jaguars knew it was a risk losing Ridley, but it was a risk they had to take because they weren't going to be able to pay him what he was asking for from the Tennessee Titans. However, that still doesn't change the fact that they take risk all the time. Sometimes a lot of bad risks, like they extended Hamilton early before his injury. No. We know how that went. And
again, I'm anti-Bulky. All I'm saying is the one thing he got right that I will always point to is Ridley. That's where I'm at.
I just think we disagree, bro. Again, if you get blackjack, that don't mean that you did well. That
don't mean you're a good card player. Who's arguing that? I'm not arguing that at all. Yeah, I'm with you. We agree, but we agree more than we don't on this. And I mean, we're getting into nitty gritty because that's what we do on the show sometimes. But what do I know? Oh yeah, Robert. Real quick, let me let Robert take his victory lap again. That he was all about the BTJ life, and he kind of was. He was in the comments.
On my radar is a very general thing, Robert. I'm here with you though. I got you.
I saw him. It's all right. He was in those comments propping it. I think Trent has has his hands in the cookie jar when it comes to the defensive personnel decisions. Devin as the Mike, Armstead as DT, and weight gains by Lloyd and Cisco.
It's so curious though because he's out. He's out on the fields with the players. You see him doing that. Like we've been out to camp together. Like you see him, he is on the field trying to coach guys up, or at least having conversations.
Unless the press might want to talk to him, then he runs. But that's a different conversation.
Like some GMs do. I'm not going to say a lot of GMs, but some GMs do that, and it's not like crazy awkward, but it does absolutely happen. All right, whatever. But it is still odd when you then later hear the rumors. All right, well, Nielsen is a Trent guy. That's who brought him in, and then it's like you hear the rumors about it was negotiated as far as I would be playing defensive tackle versus defensive end versus defensive tackle as far as Armstead is concerned, and that's like, ooh, that don't sound great. Was the defensive coordinator on board with this? Was it something that you just kind of handed him? Like that's the piece that I really don't know because again, that does make it feel like Trent has his hands in that jar a little much. Like, is this Trent's vision or is this your vision, Mr. Nielsen? Like, I need to understand this because you're supposed to be the ones calling those plays.
Yeah. No, it's fascinating stuff. Well, and the couple points made in the comments, I'll go to Hef real quick. He's saying that he stopped the previous staff from using Trayvon inside. Yeah, I think that's certainly possible. Especially when everyone's out there like, oh, look what Aiden Hutchinson's doing in Detroit. You were such a bad draft pick. Oh my God!
But they use Hutchinson inside. That was the weirdest part. Why wouldn't they allow that to happen? So weird, man. And then you see Clavon Chason actually do well. So weird, man.
Let's go overboard.
It's just happening. I'm just judging the landscape, bro. This is some weird stuff that's going on that I don't even know how to gauge it.
Yeah, and then Robert jumps in, just like McMillan, T-Mac, there are good tackles in the second round. Yeah. We have to draft the best player. We got to stop drafting needs and combine heroes. Do you feel like drafting BTJ was drafting need?
I think it was, I think we felt like we didn't have a choice. And we being the Jaguars leadership, I think they felt that they didn't have a choice. Otherwise, they would have absolutely gone cornerback. Okay. That's my personal opinion.
That's an interesting point. Because maybe they thought they were good at O-line. Yeah, we moved out Fortner. You talked about that writing being on the wall, then thinking like the Scherf was okay, but
no. So I think they felt it's no different than losing Jalen Ramsey and then you immediately trying to draft CJ Henderson. Like you just feel like you have to. And in that first round, you're supposed to go BP, best player available. I felt like they obviously I kind of have to believe that they did in this situation because it hit. But if it wouldn't have, the plan would have obviously been bad. Like, hey, you're really going to draft this rookie receiver and hope that he's going to be an incredible number one to launch this offense because this everything rests on this player being that guy, and he ended up being that guy, and it still wasn't enough. That's the crazy part about it because they still needed a cornerback just that badly.
And I'll let Zenith make this point in here too before we wrap up. It is impressive how boldly Trent will swing on ultra athletes versus proven production. We talked about this. It would be cool to draft guys who are good at their job until we prove we could develop players. See, so these two previous comments kind of contradict each other, but I find it impossible to disagree with either of them. You know what I'm saying?
Because we don't develop in Jacksonville, and that's been an ongoing complaint from the multiple past coaching staffs. Is the Jacksonville Jaguars don't develop players, from losing Quincy Williams to the New York New York Jets. Goodness gracious, all pro linebacker, and it's like, all right, so even going back those days, we just don't develop guys. They go somewhere else, and losing Josh Oliver, who was injured a lot in Jacksonville, and all of a sudden he gets healthy, he's balling out of control, playing a quality tight end for the Baltimore Ravens. And it's just like, hey, man, we don't develop guys. And that's because
like Leonard Fournette, right?
Leonard Fournette came to Jacksonville as a grown man. As a grown man.
I'm making jokes, dude. It's cool. It's cool.
Oh,
it's
man,
cool.
that's like saying but that's been a lot of people's complaints about the fact that they didn't draft, that Jaguars never drafted like Lamar Jackson. They were saying, well, if you would have gotten Lamar Jackson, he wouldn't have played well here because we wouldn't have developed him and we wouldn't have put an offense around him. And that's all right. That just means you got the wrong coaches. And we know this. That just means you got the wrong GM because he's not willing to either to bring the guy in. You got the wrong coaches who was also hired by the GM because they're not able to manipulate or maneuver their offense to fit their players. They're just trying to put guys into a scheme and not develop them. Cool. But that means you got wrong people at all levels. If you're telling me that the reason you're not going to pick the best player is because you have old, outdated philosophies from your leadership, that means you have the wrong leadership. Get better leadership. Cool. That's all we're saying. So right now I'm looking for a new age coach who's willing to actually adjust his offense, adjust his defense to work around the individual players you have and help them grow in that way. We thought that's who Ryan Nielsen was going to be on defense, and it ended up not being. He ended up doing the exact same thing he did in Atlanta and not changing anything like we thought we saw on film. But apparently what he did was just what he does. And unfortunately, it's just not working for the skill set that we have in the Jacksonville Jaguars secondary and the Jacksonville Jaguars D line.
Yeah, like you bring up Lamar Demetrius Jackson. I think being coached by a Harbaugh is the key element of his success.
Right.
I don't think it's close. I mean, other than maybe Tom Coughlin, who's a guy that can have that kind of effect. And even Coughlin at his times had his issues, banging heads with players too.
Because he was still a little too old school, a little too stuck in his ways also. So that's
but the dude was flexible enough to turn something into a Super Bowl. I mean, that's that flexibility. Why don't people talk more about coaching flexibility? Damn it. We better move on from this topic because I'm going to make this a 30-hour podcast if I keep that up.
You're not wrong, though. That's a great off-season conversation because coaching flexibility is the best. That's why Andy Reid is so damn good.
Tell him.
It's not because he's running the same playbook as Doug Peterson. No. They're not in the same category because Andy's flexible, and that's how he's able to have a Tyreek Hill-led offense or a Travis Kelce-led offense or just a run-the-ball defense, super inefficient offense that's just able to stay on schedule, or the man just wins championships because he's flexible and able to move and maneuver in all the ways that's going to help his players be great. That's what you need to be, a freaking chameleon. NFL coaching 101.
Last point.
We will mismanage. Nah, that's for his fiance. That's for his fiance to do.
We'll get into that conversation another time.
She mismanaged him enough.
That is a draft conversation. I want that drama to play out more before we touch on that, man. I don't think we're there yet. But Zenith, that's a great comment you made. We can't get into it here because we got to wrap, but we'll talk about that next show for sure. I'm going to write that down.
Well, hit me up with your prediction for Jaguars Titans. Like, do you think the Jaguars get another win and get knocked out of that top 5, or what do you think?
That's what I was going to ask you. That's what I'm trying to transition out because, like, again, Zenith makes a great comment. But yeah, for me, I think scoring more points is inevitable at this point, right? If you're Hold on. No, I won't let this stand. No, Zenith, you don't talk too much, man. We love you here. That's not what I'm saying, bro. We as mortal men with families, me writing for the Fans First Sports Network, covering the Jacksonville Jaguars, the Orlando Magic, and the upcoming Pop-Tarts Bowl, are why we have to end early. I got 2 articles to write before I go and cover Magic Heat tonight for Fans First Sports Network, okay? You didn't talk too much. I'm just a busy man. I have my Christmas holiday. Game over. It's time to work.
That's it.
Anyways, I don't see. You could like fall forward and score more than 16 points, right? I think Mason Rudolph will do his part to have more turnovers than Will Levis did. I think that'll be a thing. And yeah, for my money at day's end, I see a few more points. Your disrespect for Cam Little will be a topic of the next show as he puts at least 3 field goals. I'm set. It's a joke, Travis. Settle down.
It's disrespect. It is disrespect. I don't care. I own it. I don't care. I lean into it. It's disrespect. I got disrespect for the whole offense.
That's fair. Okay. Well, there you go.
It's disrespect to Cam Little via Mac Jones.
By association. There you go.
Yes.
Well, see, that's the thing. You can't disrespect Cam Little because he's the only offense Mac Jones got other than BTJ. Rookie sensation, baby.
Logan Cook's a weapon, bro. Come on.
I didn't say he's not a weapon. He can't put points on the goddamn board. Now can he? I'm just saying. But technically, the punter is part of the defense. Of course, you're giving him props, you homer. No, but yeah, you know what? I'm going to do this. I'm going to go the Jags by themselves outscored the 16. I got Jags 20, Titans 7 because they actually get in the end zone the one time. But I see Mason Rudolph committing turnovers to keep them from cracking double digits. Who you got, Travis?
Interesting. I don't know. I think Mason Rudolph is good enough that he's going to score points. I mean, literally every game he's throwing picks, like 3 picks, 1 pick, 1 pick, 2 pick, 1 pick. Like this is just what he's done. This is who he is. But he at least is not going to miss the basic NFL throws. The guy who's like open, the touchdowns that Will Levis missed the last time the Jaguars played. In that way, I do believe that they'll at least score. I think the floor for the Tennessee Titans is already that 14 to 21 range. Ooh. Like we're already there. And for the most part, in the games that Mason Rudolph has played, I mean, they've scored 30 points, 27 points. They won 20 points in overtime against New England. They got the brakes beat off them by Detroit, but who hasn't? Same thing in the Buffalo game. So, like, I do believe that 20 points is probably their floor with Mason Rudolph playing quarterback because he'll just keep them generally on schedule and also throwing turnovers. I'm going to go Tennessee Titans 20, Jacksonville Jaguars. Also, well, I think you said 16 was the floor, right?
I did not give the Jags the floor, but I think
20.
they scored 20. Yeah.
Yeah, you said 20. I'm going 16. I'm going 20-16 Titans.
Okay. So
keep that top 3 draft pick.
Your disrespect for Jarian Jones is noted. And
dang, Jarian, that's a random that was just a random talk.
Well, you talk about Rudolph throwing all these picks. I'm assuming he's going to get one, and you come out here with this 20 points number. I'm like, yeah, okay.
Jaguars, because the Jaguars still can't do anything but kick field goals off of these interceptions. Because I still don't.
Thank you for respecting Cam Little now.
Yeah, I brought it back. There you go, Cam. I got you.
Let's go. Tell the world where you can be found, Travis D. Holmes.
Oh, man. You can find my writings covering the Jacksonville Jaguars, BigCatCountry.com, post-game write-ups. We have the post-game, the film reviews, any breaking news, summaries of any of the new information coming out from the coaching staff. Maybe we'll get some good information coming up on, Black Monday. We'll see what happens there. Travis D. Holmes on all the socials, Twitter, Blue Sky, Instagram, all of them. You know what time it is, man. If you're listening to us right now, please like and subscribe to Duval Dive on YouTube. Hit us up on Spotify. Listen to it on your drive coming to and from. Be safe out there, y'all. What about you, sir? Where can you be found with all of your glorious writings covering the Orlando Magic, the Jacksonville Jaguars, all of them? Come on.
I mean, listen, I teased it throughout. I mentioned my work with the Fans First Sports Network covering the Jaguars and the Magic, as well as the upcoming bowl games, both at the Pop-Tarts Bowl here on the upcoming Saturday, and on New Year's Eve, I will be at the Citrus Bowl doing that work. So make sure you check that out. Of course, the upcoming game here being Miami and Iowa State. I'm a little intrigued by that. I'll be honest. The people disrespect that program out there in Ames, Iowa. But listen, Mario Cristobal coming in with Miami. I think Matt Campbell might have something for that. You know what? I think it's going to be a fun game. I haven't looked up who's sitting out yet, so you'll be able to get all that on the preview I'm going to drop for that Pop-Tarts Bowl game. So there's that. Of course, mentioned the Black and Gold Banneret. There'll be plenty of basketball upcoming, men's and women's. With plenty of talk with Scott Frost building his offense. And, some other upcoming features that you'll see on blackandgoldbanneret.com. I'm sure the Bannies are on their way soon, so make sure you check that out as well. And, of course, the Student the Game podcast was off for Christmas. We'll also be off for New Year's Day, but we'll be back and rumbling thereafter that, 9 o'clock Eastern. So with all that in mind, an honor, joy, or privilege to have you all aboard. Thank you for the comments today. Zenith, no, you don't talk too much. You're good. Robert, thanks as always for jumping in. Hef doing amazing things. I think that's all Angela was in there too. Anyways, thanks all you guys for jumping into comments. It's always great to jump aboard, to have you jump aboard. And but with all that in mind, folks, until next time on Sunday, Instant Reaction, Duval Dive Live. Class dismissed.